Programming is one of the only things in the world that you can do where you can sit down and just make something completely new from scratch, whatever you want.
That was a clip of Mark Zuckerberg from the new short film, Code Stars. He's one of many Silicon Valley giants appearing in the film, encouraging young people to learn how to code. And joining me now in studio is the film's director, Lesley Chilcott. Welcome, Lesley. Thanks for coming.
Thanks. Great to be here.
So tell me a little bit about the film. Tell me about how you got involved, who's behind it.
Two twin brothers, Ali and Hadi Partovi, who had a couple companies themselves and were quite successful in Silicon Valley. They currently sit on the advisory board of a number of companies. And they kept hearing, both in sitting on the board and from their friends that run companies, that they cannot find enough engineers, computer science engineers. And so they were trying to figure out, what they could do about it. And they're both very intelligent, very research-oriented, and I had met Ali when I was promoting Waiting for Superman, and then he had told his twin brother about me, and I guess they met with a number of people and ended up with me.
That's incredible, and you have some amazing people in this. You've got will.i.am, you got Mark Zuckerberg. I'm sure there are tons of stories that you probably heard that maybe couldn't make it in the film. Do you have any that you want to share?
Yeah, there are a lot of stories, a lot of longer stories about how old people were when they first started coding or how simple their first programs were.
Yeah.
And then I heard a lot of stories over and over again about how, like Gabe Newell from Valve, or Jack Dorsey from Twitter, or even Drew Houston, they said that they have so many great ideas that they're not able to pursue because they don't have enough coders.
What was the process like to make the film?
The process was interesting because obviously when you're dealing with the heads of some very, very large corporations and very large companies like this, even if the founder of the company is really interested in being in your project, that's one thing, and then you have to try and actually get in their schedule. So sometimes we would be slotted in like little 15 or 20-minute segments, and it would be, a challenge for me as a director to try, and sometimes it takes someone 10 minutes just to warm up and stop thinking about the board meeting they just left. So it was definitely a challenge to try and get right to the point from the very beginning. And I wanted it to be entertaining. It's about coding, and it's about breaking down myths and stereotypes. So I wanted to show that a lot of these people are maybe different than from what you had thought.
And was it hard to keep it under 10 minutes?
It was. I mean, I make feature-length documentaries, so I'm used to having 90 or 100 minutes to tell this very engaging story. And so that's why in the 9-minute version there are animations and there's great music throughout, and in all of the versions, and then the kids are in the longer version. So it was a real challenge to try and tell an interesting story in under 10 minutes.
And why did you choose to make it 10 minutes? Just because the internet usually...
We actually have lots of debates about that, because initially we thought, Hadi, when he first came to me, said, let's make a feature-length movie about this. And I said, well, maybe we should do webisodes or 10-minute pieces, and we went back and forth. And we settled on, somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes, but then independently we both were looking up studies, how long will people watch something on the internet? And so we talked to a lot of teachers and principals, and a lot of principals said, I have 1 minute in the morning. We have a video show every morning. I can play a 1-minute version, so that's why we did the trailer. And then some other teachers said, I can't spare more than 5 minutes, so we did the 5-minute version, and then the 9-minute version is the full film.
So, it seems as though the next generation is so fluent in technology. How is it that they don't know what computer programming is?
I think the reason is, we all use technology every day. It's surrounding us. Like, you can debate the pros and cons of technology, social media, but the bottom line is it's everywhere, right?
Yes.
So I think a lot of people know how to read it. They grow up playing with an iPhone or something like that, but they don't know how to write it. And so when you say, do you know what this is specifically, or what this job is? And those kids are also like in first, second, fifth grade, but they know all about it, but they don't know what the job is.
Yeah, well, I want to play a clip that stood out to me.
Well, if it's fairly simple, why aren't there more of us doing it? Over the next 10 years, there will be 1.4 million jobs in computer science, and only about 400,000 grads qualified for those jobs. That's a shortage of 1 million people.
That's incredible, and that's what you were talking about earlier. I want to tell you, there was this study that found 56% of students would rather eat broccoli than learn math. Do you think that since computer programming is somewhat related to math, that's the reason why children and students shy away from it?
It could be. That is one of the myths that exist. There is some, math, but like Bill Gates and some other people said, addition, subtraction, it's much more about problem solving, and I think people like to problem solve. They like mysteries. They like decoding things. It's much more about that than complicated algorithms.
And one of the subjects in the film is a teacher at Mount View Elementary, and here's what he had to say.
It really builds critical thinking, it builds problem solving, and it's something that they can then apply to math in the classroom or their reading skills. We integrated science with this programming, and I saw my scores go up 30%.
Do you know how many schools there are in this country that actually teach computer programming?
It is less than 10% of the schools in this country teach computer science. And interestingly enough, since we launched 6 days ago, I think it's something like 7,812 schools have written to us to say that they want computer science in their schools. So Code.org sort of pulled them back. 95% of them have computers and 96% have internet access, yet less than 10% of them teach computer science.
And you talk about Code.org. What is Code.org? Can you kind of briefly explain to me?
Code.org is essentially a place where you can go, type in your zip code or postal code, and you can find a coding class near you.
Wow.
So it's a resource if you're a student or if you're an adult. It's a resource if you're a teacher. You can download one of the 3 films. And by going there, there's also a petition that basically says, if you think a kid should have access to computer science sometime between kindergarten and 12th grade, do you agree with this idea?
So as you know, the federal and state governments are strapped for cash right now. So how do young kids get access to these high-priced computers when they're so expensive?
Well, it is a very good question, and the various answers are somewhat complicated, but the reality is most of these schools, they may not have the latest computers in every classroom, but most of these schools do have computers on carts or some sort of access. It's more about getting more teachers that have the time in their day, because they're already trying to get so many things in, to be able to teach computer science. And that's why we also say, you know what, if you have internet access at your library or somewhere outside of school, then go to Code Academy or one of these other online places where you can, I've been taking lessons at Code Academy.
Oh, really?
And I'm not a student.
And how's it going? Are you enjoying it?
But I'm really enjoying it. It's really, really fun. It's a lot more fun. After interviewing all these people that said it's more fun than you think, it's not as hard as you think, it's not just for geeky guys, I wanted to test the theory, and I've had a great time so far.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
me today. I really appreciate it. And to learn more about this organization and find out how you can take part in encouraging kids to code, visit code.org. For Next Generation TV, I'm Michelle Fields. Thanks for watching.